Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nighttime News Space Report. I've got a very special guest with us here. We got Polaris Program Content Director John Kraus. John, welcome aboard. It's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight here. And just start out for anyone who doesn't know what exactly is a SpaceX Content Director.
Yeah, so my name is John, and I work with the Polaris program team. Polaris is an exciting partnership between Jared Isaacman, the commander astronaut from Inspiration4 and SpaceX. So I work directly for the Polaris side, but it's an exciting partnership comprised of up to 3 human spaceflight missions. So the first one is called Polaris Dawn, and it's targeting a launch later this year.
Wow.
With Jared Isaacman, Scott Kidd Poteet, and then 2 incredible engineers from SpaceX, Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon. So it's an extremely talented and well-deserving crew that are going to endeavor to complete some exciting, really private spaceflight firsts with an EVA out of Dragon, Starlink integration, and then endeavoring to reach a very high altitude with Dragon.
Awesome.
So it's a really exciting time in human spaceflight, especially coming off the tail of the Inspiration4 mission. And I'm just really excited to be involved documenting it for the world.
Yeah, that is so awesome that you're on the front lines there. Now following that completion, the completion of the Inspiration4 mission, how soon after that did you know that Jared and the crew wanted you aboard for the Polaris program?
Very soon. I'll
Nice.
say, Jared has alluded elsewhere that discussions were kind of happening before Inspiration4, and then they really picked up afterward. But it was kind of an ongoing effort, and I was happy to contribute some ideas to this program before we made our announcement in February, about 6 weeks ago.
That is so cool. Awesome to hear that. And now I remember hearing that, Scott Poteet, your kid, I should just call him there, Inspiration4 mission manager, was one of the ones who reached out to you first to join the Inspiration4 team. And now he's joining, Polaris Dawn on his first flight as mission pilot here. How much training did Scott actually do with you guys during the Inspiration4 mission to prepare himself for, the at the time unannounced Polaris program?
I would say, our focus during Inspiration4 was solely Inspiration4. Kid did see quite a bit of what Inspiration4 astronauts went through for their training. I would say outside of the crew and, the people that actually train the crew at SpaceX, Kid probably saw the most. And then I was probably up there as well with how much I traveled with the team. I don't think Scott directly did any training during I-4 with the intent that he would fly a future SpaceX mission. But I would say that he was familiarized with a lot of what it takes to go through this kind of training. And I think he'll be ready. But he sort of joked that he's the weak link of the crew because Jared's already flown on Dragon, and the 2 ladies from SpaceX, Sarah and Anna, they have heavily been involved in engineering the systems behind Dragon and the processes to operate it, and some of the processes if there was an emergency. So Kid has joked that he's going to have a lot of catching up to do, but I have no doubt that with his experience as a fighter pilot in the Air Force, that he's going to be a great pilot.
Oh, that's so cool. That's funny to hear that. I would never think that, with all of his experience, that he was the weak link. That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. And it says a lot about how qualified and experienced this crew is, right? That someone like Kid can make a joke like that. But they're going to be an amazing crew. I've already got to spend some time with them before the announcement. And they get along so well, and they're the most the most consummate professionals you can ask for. So they're going to do some great things.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, do you know when the Polaris training actually started, or training for Dawn, I should say? Do you know when that actually started?
It's kicking off soon. I think Jared actually put out a tweet today that we're going to be sharing some more details about Polaris Dawn after the next 2 human space flights from SpaceX. So they have to get through Axiom 1 and Crew 4. I know those are the forefront of their focus right now with, 2 very important missions for the company. And then I think, the Polaris Dawn crew is really going to dive into training after that.
Got you. Okay, that would make sense.
They'll focus on their EVA and the science they're doing and stuff like that. But Jared put out a little joke today about, he said, pretty excited about some of the summer Polaris program EVA training events being planned, PIC related, and it looks like it's like an old school scuba diving suit. So
wow.
NASA astronauts historically have trained for EVAs with buoyancy training. So I'm sure to prepare for their mission that the Polaris Dawn crew is going to do some EVA training in the water of their own.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, definitely. And that's actually so funny you say that. It's because that's actually my next question here. And, is there any upcoming, training missions that you're aware of there for the EVA? But it looks like we got some more information on that from Jared there.
Yeah, so I'll be there for as much as I can, and as much as I'm able to shoot, I'll be there for.
Oh, that's going to be so cool.
So, yeah, I'm very lucky that they want me there for as much as I'm allowed to be around for, and I'm going to make the most out of whatever opportunities are presented to photograph. So, I'm sure it'll really ramp up here in the next couple of weeks and months, as we progress toward that Q4 launch.
Gotcha. That's going to be so exciting to see all that. And I'll definitely be following along there on if you're posting on Flickr or wherever you guys are posting that. And now,
absolutely, Twitter, Instagram, and Flickr, I think, are going to be our main platforms, and then the crew's socials, as well as our website, polarisprogram.com.
Gotcha. Awesome. Make sure you guys all check that out. Now, I've got an awesome picture here from training from Inspiration4 here of what looks to be Cyan on a moonwalk simulator. Now, what portion of training was this? And did you get to actually, hop aboard and try this?
Yeah, so this was a visit to Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. I want to say it was in early July. Yeah, it was in early July. This was more like a fun visit to inspire, the next generation of spaceflight enthusiasts, more so than it was a formal training event. But we did get to do some fun stuff like this moonwalk, gravity simulator, as well as the 6-axis trainer, where you get spun around all random and stuff.
Oh wow, yeah.
I did get to try this. I actually did a little race with Jared. I think he let me win. He's a lot taller, so it's going to be easier for him to traverse the simulated lunar surface. But it was fun to jump around, and I also got to do the 6-axis trainer, which was not nearly as nauseating as I thought it might have been. So
really?
it was actually pretty fun. Yeah.
That's so cool to hear that you got to do that. Now, another awesome photo that I have here is one of the few that you actually didn't take in all of these here. We got you guys floating around in the zero-G plane. Now, what exactly does it feel like to be in zero-G?
Oh boy, it's really hard to describe unless you've experienced, but it's I would kind of equate it to being in water, like floating in water, but even more freeing. But unless you push off of something, you don't really have any sort of easy way to like reorient yourself. You're kind of swimming around.
Yeah.
They say most people will try to swim because they think they're in water. And going into this flight, I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's pretty silly. And then I ended up doing exactly that
and you
for the first couple passes. Yeah. This was a really fun flight. I was, first and foremost focused on capturing the crew more than I was focused on really trying to enjoy the experience, because ultimately my job is to document the I-4 crew, not to have fun and forget to take pictures. But what was cool was a few months later, I got to do another zero-G flight while the Inspiration4 crew was on orbit. So Jared had a great idea to book flights for the families and friends. So during the first full day, second day after launch that the crew was on orbit, I got to experience zero-G again while the I-4 crew was experiencing zero-G. So for that flight, I just brought a 360 GoPro and was throwing it around and filming, but I wasn't actually working. So that was a lot more of a fun experience. I wish my astronaut friends were there, but they were in space. But it was cool to I got to bring a family member of mine along and hang out with people I knew from the team. So I've been lucky enough to do 2 of those flights now. And it's a really incredible experience.
I could only imagine. Now, have you talked to any of the astronauts there and asked how that flight compares to actually being on orbit? Is this pretty close? Is this dead on? Have you?
I'm sure we covered it at some point, right after they came back. There was so much going on that
okay.
specific conversation points are hard to recall.
Yeah,
But
no worries.
I would say it's pretty similar. If I had to guess, the zero-G you're experiencing on the flight, is zero-G. It's not 0.001 G and there's an asterisk and it's simulated. You really are floating, like you would be in space. The only difference is it's achieved by flying the plane in a parabola. And obviously there's only so much up and down space, you know, in the airspace you're granted before you would like go way too high for the plane, or you would obviously get too close to the ground. So
Yeah.
the zero G bursts only are about 20 to 30 seconds,
Oh, really?
depending on like how much airspace you have and, you know, specific nuances of the pilots flying that day. Um, so they kind of like make a big deal out of like, all right, we're coming out of the pole in, you
Mhm.
know, 10 seconds or so, and you have to lay on your back looking straight at the ceiling, and you feel like 2 Gs against your chest, and then like you come out of that pole
Oh,
and you only have, you know, 20 to 30 seconds, and they start counting down, you know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then they ask like that you try to get close to the ground so that when you slowly come out of the pole, you just float back down. Now what's great is that you don't come out of the pole super abruptly, so you
Mhm.
don't just like hit the ground and land. You do kind of like float back down. Now I had a pole on the second flight where I was totally upside down, like as they started coming out of it, and I couldn't
Oh
really
no.
reorient myself in time because I was chasing after like a floating candy or something. And I came down really hard, but it's cool because they have uh, like padding all around
Yeah, that looks pretty padded in
the
there.
barrel of the plane. So it was like a hard fall, but I didn't pain or anything, and they're smart to pad it. But
That's
overall, like
so
it's a
cool.
super unique experience that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do without being on this team. So it was one of the highlights of the campaign for sure.
Oh, what a unique experience there. And now, speak of unique experiences here. I've got another picture here of you guys all out on the middle of a shortfall of gravitas. Now, this was a brand new drone ship when this picture was taken here. This was taken on July 29th, 2021. And this was exactly to the date, 1 month prior to that booster 1061 CRS-23 landing on August 29th. So how did this idea come up to go just stand in the middle of a drone ship and take a picture here?
So this was during the crew's water survival training at the port. So
Oh,
some
okay.
of the Dragon support ships like are docked in the port, and I'll say this because like it's publicly known and accessible. Like obviously I'm limited by what I can share, and
Yeah, yeah,
but
definitely.
like it's been seen that astronauts are doing that water survival training in the port, and I think like there was just a brief break between training events or something, and they thought they would get a tour of the drone ship, so the crew got to go aboard the drone ship and
Oh, so
you
cool.
know took some photos, and luckily we were able to release this one. So you know they got to see it. It's the size of a football field. It's pretty incredible. And then
Unbelievable.
we did the same thing actually a few days after the I think it was the day after the booster came back to port. So I think the crew splashed down, and then the next morning or the next day, yeah, there it is. You got it. We did the same thing with the rocket on it. I think this
Oh
was
man.
just read the instructions though. I don't think it was ASOG,
Okay,
but either way,
okay.
like super cool to have stood on both of them
Yeah,
because
definitely.
obviously like the newer one is a slightly different design and stuff. But
Definitely looks a
you know,
little
just
different.
just one of the incredible opportunities that were afforded to us by being on this team.
Most certainly. Now, a question: how do you board these? What do you guys have, like a ladder, or is there like a drawbridge, or what?
It's just kind of like a staircase right across the deck to the ship.
Okay,
Nothing,
okay,
nothing too atypical.
okay.
It's pretty benign. It's pretty
Gotcha.
straightforward.
Gotcha. Now, it must have been really cool, being able to board a brand new drone ship, something very few people, I'm sure, actually, was able to do while the time this was sitting in port before it got used. And then, being able to board one here that's been used. So like like how, like, what does it look like? Is there anything like that stands out that you notice on these used drone ships, or is it look almost like it just the deck's been, a little dirty? Like, what does the booster
Uh,
actually do to it?
I would say the deck is fairly noticeably more worn in on this one,
Hmm.
and I think I believe you're correct in saying like when that picture was taken, it wouldn't have yet landed anything, so I'm sure it looked
Hmm.
more
Yeah, on this
pristine.
one.
Um, yeah, it's definitely like one of those things where my first focus is capturing the images, and I'm really in the moment, not paying specific attention to stuff like that. But I can look back at it later through the
Yeah,
photos.
no worries.
Um, but but it was it was a cool experience, and you're right. Like not many people get to see things like that. I'm just super fortunate that I was able to follow along with this crew and take some pictures like that.
So awesome. Now, Move along here. I've got another really cool picture that you took here. It looks like Jared hopping out of an F-16 with the Thunderbirds. Now I know Scott Petit, our kid there, was actually a U.S. United States Air Force Thunderbird #4 demonstration pilot. So I'm sure this was special for him. Was he along with you guys for this?
Yeah, he was there that day. I'm sure it was really cool for him to see his friend Jared fly with the Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
He retired a little bit ago, I think, within the last 10 years or so from the Air Force and subsequently the Thunderbirds. But yeah, it was really cool to get to see Jared, fly the F-16 because there's,
Yeah,
I don't believe there's any in private hands at all. Jared
really?
owns a MiG-29. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's only MiG-29 in non-government hands. It might be, but there might be a
Wow.
handful of others. But like obviously, the F-16, like if you're a civilian, it's to get to do a flight like this is rare. And they open it up sometimes for like fan flights and stuff and local heroes. But Jared said like it was a super responsive, amazing aircraft, and I believe him for sure.
I could only imagine there. Now, it looks like you were able to hop here in some jets and get some flight time. These T-38s?
So those are L-39s.
L-39s. Okay.
Yeah, they're Czech Republic planes, I believe.
That's what they're called.
And those are the
Nice.
jets from the Black Diamond jet team that Jared and a
Wow.
few others on our team were flying a handful of years ago. So yeah, we got to do a couple flights around KSC leading up to launch. This was the second of those flights with the rocket vertical, actually, which was really cool. The first flight we had kind of crappy weather and the rocket wasn't vertical, but this was a really cool experience to get to fly over their rocket and Dragon. So we had 7 planes up in there. I'm in number 7, and then seeing the ship go by the pad was amazing.
I could only imagine that. That is so cool to see that there. Now, now, I'm not sure if you know anything about this. Now, is that the Starship orbital launch tower starting to be built right there? I could actually pull up the pointer here. Is it right there? Is that the Starship tower? Or is it being done somewhere else?
So based off some things that have already been circulated, like on Twitter, from the people that really follow this stuff,
Yeah.
it's my understanding that structure is being dismantled.
Oh, interesting.
And whatever Starship efforts at 39A are not related to that specific structure.
Gotcha. Okay. Very well. Very well. No worries there. And now I've got a couple more photos here of times out in your jet time here. Yeah. So you guys got to go down to Starbase and then also to Bozeman, Montana as well. Now, out of the 3 there, which one really stuck out to you? There's some crazy places to go flying.
Yeah. So Montana was great because it was the first time I got to fly in a fighter jet. So like that was a very unique experience, and we had a really great fighter jet training weekend event with the crew and their friends and families.
Oh, wow.
We did the call sign naming ceremonies with the crew, with Haley, Cyan, and Chris, who are Nova, Leo, and Hanks. And then I even got my own call sign, which is Snap, which is pretty fitting because I snap photos. So like that weekend was a very unique experience, but I would say flying over KSC like a few days before your friends go into orbit was my favorite. We got to see the rocket on the pad and stuff like that. Starbase was cool, but the KSC flight was really, really kind of the cherry on top.
Awesome. That's so cool to hear. Now, I've got a question here. I've got another picture. It looks like someone brought a Citation 10 out to have some fun with you guys. Who brought the Citation 10 to the Citation X? Right, where you call it there?
I believe we called the 10. That's one of Jared's aircraft that he'll fly on to different events and stuff. But
Oh, wow.
that was when the crew was going from Hawthorne to Florida from like their final training to the launch pad.
Oh, no way.
And I think there were just some residual members of the team that like needed a ride. So the Citation 10 and the jets rendezvoused in Pensacola, and then they flew in on the jets to KSC.
Oh, wow.
If I remember correctly.
What a
So I
ride
was
to come in on.
yeah, I was already in KSC
Oh,
waiting on them at the runway because like I live in the area and I wasn't there for that final week of Hawthorne stuff. So like I just got to welcome them home or like I guess welcome them to their final home on Earth for a
Yeah.
bit at KSC where I live.
Oh, so cool to see that. Now speak of flexing, because that is so cool to bring the jets out at the Citation there. We got Elon and the crew here flexing in front of a Falcon here. Now, did Elon come and just hang out with you guys all day for launch, or was he just stopping by, say bon voyage, or what was
Oh
that
no,
like?
it was just a quick visit. Came by, gave them well wishes before they left, and
Oh, very well. That's
posed
so
for a
cool.
quick picture, and then I think he went out and spoke with the families for a bit before the crew walked out, and then the crew walked out, and they were off to the pad.
Oh, that's so cool to see there. Now, while I was editing this, in the background of this photo, I noticed something that I definitely don't see every day. Now, do you know, by chance, is that the first stage booster there without an inner stage, or is that missing some engines?
Um, I'm not quite sure, honestly.
Yeah, no worry. That's so
I
cool to
would
see
leave
that.
that to like the people that like really dive into this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Given that I mean, like this, I'm just throwing it out there. Nothing that like you said, but like given that I do get to see some of this stuff like more closely now.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus like when I was kind of external as a member of the media, like I kind of just let the analysts and like content consumers dive into that stuff. And I don't like make a huge deal out of like, oh, look at like you know uncovered engine or something like that. But I'm sure like someone could figure it out, because like there's so many big fans of SpaceX out there that like trout what's the word like analyze that stuff and track like what boosters
Definitely.
and what boosters and stuff.
Yeah, shout out to them. It's so cool to have all that data. It's so crazy that fans are able to compile all of that knowledge just by
Absolutely.
observing. And then it's now the next picture I have here. We've got Haley with her one of the most delicious breakfasts I've seen here. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us a little more about this? Was this in Hangar X before launch that morning?
Yeah, this was right before walkout, so they had a little final breakfast with families before lunch. Looks like Haley got some steak there, like part of the classic steak and eggs. So
Ooh.
I believe like there's a photo of each crew member with their breakfast. So I think like Jared had the classic steak and eggs, I think, and Haley had this. Then I think Chris just had coffee, and then Cyan had a smoothie or something like that.
Is that what she was
trying to
drinking?
grab a picture, yeah, trying to grab a picture of all of them with their breakfast of choice.
Gotcha. Yo, that is so cool to see there. That looks absolutely delicious there. Now, did you get anything? Did they ask you what you wanted?
It was kind of like an a la carte thing, I think. So
Oh, okay.
they got to, I think, pick and choose what they wanted. I think, but no, like I may have grabbed like a quick snack or something. But this
Okay.
was like a very intimate like family time before launch. So this would have
Gotcha.
been the last few moments that the crew got to spend with their families before heading to the pad. So I was very cognizant of like let the crew have their time with their families, let them take some pictures with their loved ones before they strap off into space. But I think like we took some pictures together, and I just kind of gave them their space for this hour. So
Got you. Yeah, definitely would want to do that. Makes sense there. And now after breakfast and everything, they moved into suit up and everything. And then right before coming out, I found this really cool picture. It looks like a new tradition that started here. The glow stick ring toss. How did that tradition start? If you know.
um, this is actually going to be the ones that like it's not my story to break.
Fair enough. No worries.
I'm sure if Jared ever is asked this, so he might share the tradition, but I don't think the origins of the tradition have been publicly shared yet. So I'll leave that to like Jared or one of the other astronauts to talk about if they ever want to. But it's a funny story. Trust me.
Oh, that'd be cool to hear. Well, okay, we'll leave that one untouched there. And now going from the suit up room here outside. Now a little question about the cameras here. I'm sure that was definitely tricky because we go from the suit up room right out here to the bright Teslas and everything into the Florida sun. So how were you able to work around that? Do you have different lenses, different settings set up?
Yeah, just a quick setting change. We did a dry dress rehearsal a few days before this. This is pretty standard for SpaceX crew launches, so I had a good understanding of the flow of the operation. So I knew when to be in position for certain things. And I believe those two photos you just showed were taken with the same camera and lens, so it was just a quick
Gotcha.
settings change.
So between that and that, you just different settings. Okay, very cool. Very cool there. And so they're boarding here in the Model X's. And now, did you have a seat in the Model X or one of them?
Yeah, so there was a third vehicle not shown here that I was in. So I didn't ride with any of the crew members for these, but I did ride in another car.
Okay, that's so cool that you got to go in those. Now, after they rode out to the pad there, the crew rides out, they hop up into the rocket there, get strapped in. Now, where did they send you to observe the rocket launch from?
So I was on top of the VAB roof a few miles away on KSC. So
is that where that came from here?
Yep.
Okay,
so they went up the tower, and that's when I departed the pad. And then went to the KSC press site to wait for the meet time for the VAB roof, and went up to the roof and got to see the launch.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, how does the rocket sound from there? Because there's really nothing between you and that rocket up there. So I'm sure you can not only hear it, but what does it feel like too?
Oh, it's amazing. It like totally shakes your whole body.
Oh my God.
It shakes the building below you. You can hear it reverberating off the walls of the VAB. And then, you crane your neck back and watch it ascend into orbit. It was a pretty emotional experience, because like these were people that I had become friends with, very, very close friends with over the I think 7 months or so before this launch. So to see people that I personally knew like leave the planet was very surreal.
I could only imagine, yeah, the emotions were high watching, your friends strapped on top of a Falcon 9 rocket ascend there. That is unbelievable. There's some amazing photos here from the VAB, and then it looks like we got this photo. Now, how many cameras did you have deployed, and was this like just a camera that was triggered by sound, or how was this one captured?
Yeah, this was a sound triggered camera, which is pretty typical for all of my remote cameras that are near the launch pad. I think I set out 4 remotes for this launch. There's just so much going on, with my focus mainly being on how can I capture the crew's journey. I knew all along that I would, of course, shoot the launch and, of course, set remote cameras, but I didn't deploy as many as people might think I would have. But I got a good variety of remote shots that I'm pretty happy with. Maybe I set out 5, but I think we only posted 4. I think one of them was like foggy or dewy or something. But,
Gotcha.
They turned out pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with them, all things considering.
Yeah, I look absolutely amazing. Great job with that. And then I also have here,
Thank you.
One of my favorite ones, a nice long exposure shot here. And then where exactly? Because I remember hearing that they like breached the sun there for a second and got up into the sunlight for a couple seconds. Was that this first illumination, or is it the far one there?
It's that bluish white one there, as the second stage presses toward orbit.
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure
right
if you
here.
grabbed it, but there's a photo that shows that close up, which actually
Is it this
turned
one by
out really
chance?
well. It is, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So for some background on this, I had rented a 800 millimeter lens to use for this launch, because I was lucky enough to have a bit of a budget to procure some gear. And I had been using like the new Nikon mirrorless cameras for this campaign, and I forgot the adapter to use the 800 millimeter with the new mirrorless camera. And because of that, I had to use only a 200 millimeter. So I knew I wouldn't get any super tight photos of the rocket during ascent, which I was like really bummed by. And then this phenomenon happened with the whole light up thing and the gold. But I wasn't expecting it to happen. So
Really?
It was a kind of an incredible, like happy accident stroke of luck that I was using a wider lens that, I was able to capture this.
Wow, absolutely amazing. This is crazy. This needs to be my wallpaper after this. I think I'm gonna reset my wallpaper.
Go for it.
That's so amazing. Now the Inspiration4, mission. They went up to orbit there. Had a great time. In orbit we got some awesome views live from orbit there, and they reached an orbital altitude of around 364 miles. In comparison, there, the International Space Station is about 254 miles up. So that was the highest orbit achieved since STS-103 in '99, and the 5th highest orbital human spaceflight ever. So now Polaris Dawn is going to be setting a record here by taking advantage of the Falcon 9 and Dragon's maximum performance. Now, do you know a little bit more about how high they're going to be orbiting there? Or is this still information that SpaceX will be releasing in the future?
Both actually. So, Jared alluded today that there's ongoing mission design review meetings that are happening as we progress toward that launch. And I've been lucky enough to be privy to some of those as we have them, but it's unfortunately not my news to share. But what I can say is, if you do look at like the list of highest orbital altitude missions, you can infer where we would want to go based on those numbers. But
Understood.
Ultimately, like it will be the highest Crew Dragon flight to date. I think the team was pretty confident saying that at the announcement. But as for specific numbers, I think we'll have a little bit more to share as we get closer to the launch date.
Awesome. Look forward to hearing those official numbers there. Now, I've got some photos here that were taken on orbit by the crew here. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the iPhones and cameras that they used, and how the altitude up here changed the perspective from the pictures we're normally used to seeing from the ISS?
Absolutely. So they all had iPhone 12 Pros for the flight, and then they also had a Nikon Z7 II mirrorless camera with a 14 to 24, 24 to 70, and 70 to 200 millimeter lens.
Unbelievable.
So this was with the Nikon. These all look to be with the Nikon. I can kind of remember them because I actually edited these. So they came back, and our mission director Kid came to me like the next morning and said, all right, the cameras and SD cards and iPhones are going to be ready in about a half hour. Good luck. And it was my responsibility to look at what they got and process it and prepare it for like sort of delivery and approval processes with SpaceX. So that was great. It was really cool to like edit space raw photos. Yeah. Like I wasn't expecting to do that a year ago. And like they got great stuff. And because of the training timeline being so accelerated for this mission, they found out they were going to be astronauts in like the February-March timeframe, and they were launching in September. That's 6 months.
Wow.
Photography wasn't the highest priority item on their training list, and also wasn't something they had a ton of time to practice leading up to the flight. But I did my best to prepare them. I made some manuals and guides for them, and got some time instructing them how to use the cameras, and they did a great job. Particularly Chris, he really took a liking to doing some photography up in orbit, and it was great because I think SpaceX put out a picture of him in the cupola with his camera while they were on orbit.
Yeah, I remember that picture.
He was thinking about. I knew he was thinking about some of the advice that I gave him and stuff, and he confirmed as such when he got back to the ground that he was relying on my advice. So that was pretty sentimental for me.
So cool.
And they even made me a couple videos up there just saying hi, and they took a photo of the 5OS to orbit, and like Jared filmed it floating around, and they showed me the cupola. So that was pretty cool just to know that like I was at least in the back of their minds up there for a little bit. And then they took some time to do those videos, but
so
cool. Like their photography was incredible. And they did note that they noticed a difference when they were at the 590 versus the lower altitude. So
did they?
They were up at that higher altitude, mostly circular, I believe, or virtually circular, like for most of that flight. And then they lowered for a little bit to the lower altitude to prepare for reentry. And they said they could absolutely tell the difference. I think it was like a 100-mile difference or something like that, give or take. Wow. And they said they could absolutely tell that they got lower. So.
Very cool. And you think about like 100 miles here on the ground, like it's far, but at the same time, you think, it's not that far. But then when you put it in a vertical perspective, it takes a whole different place.
I equate it to like the range of most Teslas is like a little lower or almost what they reached with like, let's see, if we do 590 kilometers in miles, that's 366, almost 367. So like only a handful of the Teslas can go that far. Wow. I'm a big Tesla fan, so that's like kind of how I equate it. It's just interesting to think about like you would need to charge if you wanted to drive that far.
That's so crazy. I always think about it, from big city to big city. That's definitely how I've always put it, like range in a car. It's so funny you say that because it's exactly how I always try to imagine it, and it's like that's not that far. Like, but yet you look at a picture like this and you're like, wow, that's far.
Yeah, it makes you wanna go farther, right? See what's out there.
Right, definitely does.
Explore what's out there.
It definitely does there. Now, is there anything that you would tell the crew? Is there anything that you noticed while unloading these pictures that you're like, if only I would have told them this, that it could have been a little better? Is there anything you're going to tell the Polaris Dawn crew to do different than what Inspiration4 did?
No, I think all things considering, they did a pretty great job. And given the little bit more time I'm gonna have with the Polaris Dawn crew, based on their training schedule, like I'm gonna make sure that they're prepared to take some great photography.
Awesome.
The only difference being they're not gonna have a cupola, so they're gonna have the hatch. So their photography is going to be all through the windows, and then whatever they manage to do during the EVA. So we'll see what they get, but I know that higher altitude of up there is going to be pretty exciting.
Oh, that's going to be so cool. Yeah, most certainly. It'd be cool to compare these pictures to then Dawn's pictures. So very cool stuff. Absolutely. There. Now on September 18th, the crew landed back down, splashed off of the splashed off the north east coast there of Cape Canaveral in the Atlantic Ocean, picked up by the Go Searcher recovery vessel there about 40 minutes after. Now, where exactly was this taken, and where did they bring the astronauts back to? If you can reveal that location, it's not top secret.
Yeah, so this was on site at Kennedy Space Center.
Okay, gotcha.
And then they flew them to the SLF, and then this helicopter actually drove a little bit from the SLF to where we were, and then they got off the helicopter. They were reunited with their families.
Very cool. This is such a cool black and white photo. I like how you edited this one. It's
Thank you.
So cool to see that. And then, what were the emotions like there? Obviously, I'm sure they were extremely happy to see their family and everything. Were they, explain to me what it was like being in that hangar as astronauts return home, the first civilian crew.
It was very, very emotional. Obviously, they were very happy to see their families, and their families were very happy that they returned safely. But that said, there was sort of this aura of like, oh, yeah, we just did that. We can't believe it. But at the same time, like, it was 3 days and we just saw you, but like, we're really happy it all went safely. But at the same time, like, did we just go on like a little camping trip, like a little grocery run or something? Like obviously, like, everyone knew the magnitude of what they had just accomplished, but it was a 3-day space flight, not a 6-month expedition to the station. So
very true.
Our lives, basically were on pause from like launch to return. It wasn't like I would imagine a NASA astronaut going to the space station for 6 months. Their families, like, they probably have to like really get back into the groove of their lives. And 2 months in, they think like, oh crap, there's 4 months left till I get to see my family. Like, it was just a bit of a different aura for this mission. But everyone was obviously super thrilled that it went safely. Everyone was really excited to see their astronaut loved ones. I was very cognizant of giving the crew space to reunite with their families first and foremost during this moment. So as good of friends as I had become with the crew, their families are their families, and it wasn't my place to make a huge deal out of them coming home. But when they approached me, it was great. Jared made sure to give me back my little name patch that he took to orbit for me right away, which was really thoughtful of him, and hugs all around. But it was a really great night. And then the crew went off for some medical assessments, and then they came back to our residence where we were staying, and everyone was thrilled and had some fun. I think everyone was a little tired at that point, especially the crew. But,
yeah, I can imagine.
Right around then was when we got word that Elon was going to donate $50 million to St. Jude, and we surpassed our $200 million.
Finish that goal off. Love to hear it.
So just to kind of cap off that return and that night with surpassing that goal, just really kind of brought it full circle as to a big component of what we were doing with Inspiration4.
Oh wow, that had to have been amazing. And now, did you notice like when they got off, just 3 days? You kind of mentioned it seemed like just a quick camping trip to them. Now, were they were they walking normally and everything? Because I know, like, when you come back from a long expedition there on the space station, you definitely had to do some rehabilitation. Was there, to your knowledge, a lot of rehabilitation or any that went into them returning home?
No, everything they've said since and everything I saw that night, like, they look great.
Oh,
They
so
all
cool.
felt great when they returned, and you know, if you watch the stream, like they all walked off the spacecraft. So
Yeah, definitely.
pretty great.
Yeah, hopefully that means that we can take that 3-day trip out to the moon and then walk out, no problem.
Absolutely.
One day. Now, let's see. I've got. I guess it would be a good time, here at the end of their mission here to announce or bring up here the Countdown Inspiration4 Mission to Space Netflix documentary. For anyone out there that hasn't seen that, there's an amazing docuseries about the whole mission on Netflix, called Countdown Inspiration4 Mission to Space, as it follows the crew from training to launch to landing on its first all-civilian orbital space mission. Now, did you have any input or involvement in the production of this?
No, so it was very much a separate production
Okay,
than the work I was doing. So they did a great job,
gotcha.
but like I was not working for the documentary, and we did work around each other while we were doing our respective different coverages of the event. Um,
Gotcha.
but it was a great product, and I think they remarkably told a remarkable story.
Most certainly. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure you guys go check that out. Now, I noticed in this picture that I showed at the beginning, here's you in the suit up room. Now, is that Netflix over there, number 4, doing their thing?
No, that's a SpaceX content person
Oh,
actually.
awesome. Okay, gotcha. So that's SpaceX over there. And then in the other photo, here, I pull that up here. I noticed this cool little rover. This was actually probably one of the first photos I remember seeing of the crew and everything. Really cool Global Express back there. And then I right above my head here, there's this little rover camera. Now, whose camera is that? I had so many questions about that when I saw it the first time.
I think that had to do with the documentary. I'm not sure if any of those clips made it into the final cut. They might have been in like a trailer or something.
Okay, so
But
that's a Netflix
fun
camera.
fact that Netflix or Time, I'm not 100% sure, but
Oh, okay.
because it was a joint production between those two entities. But
Got
fun
you.
fact, like that photo was taken a year ago today.
No
Basically
way.
like a year ago, maybe 2 hours ago. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So
That's
today
amazing.
was the day that the crew all met together for the first time.
Wow. Well, what an amazing day to have an interview on. Thank you for joining us again. That's
No worries.
honored to be here talking with you about these amazing pictures. And now, is that also Jared's plane back there, the Global Express? The
I believe he has said as such. Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
so. I will.
it's a beautiful bird.
It
I'll
is.
put it that way.
It is.
Got some flights in on it.
Oh, wow.
It's very great. It's a great aircraft.
That's so cool. I love how he's got the best paint jobs on his plane there.
Yeah, stay tuned.
You guys heard it here. Now, is there going to be a docu-series for Polaris Dawn or the Polaris missions, or is that, again, no worries, again, if that's not something that hasn't been announced there?
There will be. There
Oh,
will be. So
very cool.
Jared has confirmed as such, and
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
looking forward to being able to relive the whole experience.
Ooh, that's going to be so cool. I can't wait to relive that as well. That is so cool. Now, after the crew returned home here, kind of it's funny, jump from the beginning of the mission when they met to now. Here's the end when they got their Dragon wings. Now, what kind of event did SpaceX throw here for the Dragon wings? Because I don't remember seeing a video of it if there was one released.
No, there's no released video, but it was
Okay.
basically just like a talk with some of the employees, and they returned to Hawthorne, and they got to share the experience with the people that made it possible.
Very
So
cool.
Hawthorne, so many talented engineers and employees that work in Hawthorne to enable crews like this to do their missions. And
Oh, certainly.
this was sort of a full circle moment for the crew to return and close out any final items and debrief the mission, and they were presented with their Dragon wings, which was a total surprise.
So cool to see here, and as people always say, you hear like, is this Elon's rocket or did Elon do this? I love Elon, love what he does and everything, but I always try to remind people, it's the 10,000 plus employees for SpaceX and all the other people that are contract workers or like you making all of this happen that don't get the same credit. So I just always try to remind people, big shout out to all the employees there at Hawthorne and all their other locations. Amazing work what they're doing there.
I totally agree. Elon's a visionary, and he's built some great companies, but ultimately the people are what make it happen.
Most certainly.
So there's so many people behind the scenes that that like, it'd be hard to even begin to name them all that enabled these kind of things to happen. So like when I see the headlines like Elon Musk, SpaceX and stuff, like that's going to get clicks from the mainstream audiences, but like, it's really like the people that build it that make it happen. So
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Big shout out to the SpaceX employees there. Now, so I guess that wrapped up the Inspiration4 mission there. Now, did you guys attend any other notable events there after the Dragon Wing ceremony there?
Right before that, we got to see, what was it? The Netflix premiere. So we got a screening like 2 days before that came out.
Oh, wow.
And then a few weeks after this, we did a St. Jude gala in Napa Valley, California, which raised like $2 million for St. Jude with auction items and donations and stuff.
That's amazing.
Then we actually visited St. Jude, the whole crew together, and St. Jude like threw a little car parade, and we got to meet patients and employees and stuff there. So that was a true full circle moment to kind of see what that work and fundraising was actually doing.
Wow, so cool to hear that. Yeah, that definitely well deserved. Yeah, big shout to the Inspiration4 crew there and everything. I've actually got the Inspiration4 shirt on that I bought, and I even pre-ordered the Polaris Dawn shirt. Unfortunately, that was dirty today, so I had to put on the Inspiration4 shirt.
I think they should be coming soon. We're working hard to get that merch out to folks. So
I actually already got it, believe it or not. It's already shown up.
Oh, you did get it?
Yeah.
You did get it.
Believe it or not.
That's awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, so cool.
We just got some of our team gear last week.
Oh, awesome. That's so cool. Got the swag on deck there. Now, so I guess shifting, talks into a different mission here now, into Polaris. On February 14th, SpaceX officially announced the Polaris program. Program consists of up to, like you mentioned earlier at the beginning, 3 human space flights that are going to demonstrate technologies, conduct extensive research, and ultimately lead into the first flight of SpaceX's Starship with humans on board. What was it like there to visit Starship or Starbase and Starship here with the crew? It looks like on Flickr, I noticed when I was grabbing these, this was taken on the 11th. So did anyone like walk up to you guys and wonder what you guys were doing here before the official word got out?
Yes, but luckily we kind of kept a distance from the public road. And I think anyone that might have been able to see what we were up to wasn't able to see who was there. But it was definitely like we were cognizant of the fact that we didn't want to spoil this before it was time to properly announce it.
That's funny.
But we did have a photo shoot that morning, which was pretty great. Got to walk around Starbase a bit, and then I think the next day or later that, it was either the next day or the day prior, we like got to go to the Starship pad and go up the tower and stuff. So that was pretty great.
Oh, that's funny. I actually got a picture right here. Queued up of you guys on the top of the orbital tower here. You got Starship back there hanging on the chopsticks, and wow, how did you? What was it like going up to the top of that? Not a lot of people, outside of employees, have been up to the top of this brand new structure. How do you guys get up there?
There's an elevator. I think the photo and the view kind of speaks for itself, right? You're towering above even Starship itself.
Yeah.
You're from this perspective, you're a bit above the ship, which is a pretty unique perspective. And this photo was taken with an ultra wide lens, so like, it doesn't really convey how close you are to the ship. But it's pretty cool up there. This was actually a birthday surprise for Jared. So,
oh, really?
So Jared knew that later in the day we were going to go to the Starship pad, but we kept it a surprise that he was going to get to go to the top.
Oh,
and he was pretty excited
cool
to get to do so. So I was lucky enough to be there and document it. I'll throw you a little teaser. I may or may not have a similar photo of myself, but that one will probably be in the archives for a long time because focus is on the crew and their families. But I had to grab a picture like that with me in it.
That's so amazing. And I noticed it looks so cool. It almost reminds me of the Luxor in Vegas. If you look at the top here, it almost looks like Starship's like shining a light up into the clouds there, like a light's coming down on Starship with the moon back there. Yeah. I would imagine it is. That is so cool to see.
Yeah, that's the moon. That's the moon.
And then you got like people out there on the beach, because that's just a public beach, right? You just get to drive past Starship and everything there out to a public beach.
Yeah, that's just like a car on the public beach, which is pretty cool. Like the whole Boca Chica Starbase area is like really accessible, and I would recommend anyone that's interested in space flight to take a few days and go down there. Not even if there's a launch or anything, but just to see it.
Definitely, that is on the bucket list. Hopefully, in the future, a couple years, my goal is to go pick up a Cybertruck down there, and that might be one of the first stops in it.
Awesome.
That's my plan there. And then I also have the crew here standing underneath the launch tower there, so you can kind of get a size comparison there. It's so big it didn't even fit all the way on the screen here. But yeah, it's really cool to see the 4 crew members that are going to be ultimately going on that first commercial EVA or spacewalk. It's just unbelievable to see that there. And then let's see here. Let's see. I think that really is all I grabbed here. I've got one last photo here there. Appropriately. It's in front of a sign that reads "Occupy Mars." And now, how significant do you personally think that these Polaris missions are going to be to one day achieving that ultimate goal to occupy Mars?
Yeah, so I'll say first, this is a SpaceX photo. I didn't capture this one, but
fair enough.
Flickr does have some photos from SpaceX. I don't know if you have the Flickr immediately handy, but
yeah,
I think there's a few that I captured there. So I did some portraits of the crew using that light, that sign as light. But as for the question, I think like a lot of these technologies that we're going to demonstrate through the Polaris program are integral to Mars exploration, right? So Jared has said that missions to the moon or Mars are going to require thousands of EVA suits for them to be. So you want to go to the Polaris program Flickr. So if you switch out the word SpaceX in the URL with Polaris program, it's the quickest way, because sometimes Flickr search can be finicky. But we're going to need hundreds. Polaris program photos. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
So yeah, there you go. Anyway, we're going to need thousands of suits to, one day enable people to easily live and work on other worlds. And I think a big component of Polaris Dawn is that first commercial EVA. What does it look like when a commercial company, not a government entity, is doing an EVA?
Yeah, that is going to be so cool. And I see we got some pictures here trying on some EVA gloves and maybe a little sneak peek in the background. And it doesn't look too different than, what they already have there. The IVA suits, I believe what they're called. It's so cool.
So those are the intravehicular suits, are what they have now, and those are not designed for EVA. They're designed to withstand, a deep press of Dragon, but they're not specifically designed for an EVA event. So it'll be exciting to see what the SpaceX team comes up with.
Most certainly. So, and if you don't mind, do you want to shout out all your social medias here, where we can find all of your amazing work and possibly support you there? And this is obviously, for anyone wondering, this is the Polaris program Flickr. SpaceX also has one that John is posting some amazing content to. So make sure to go check that out. And where can they find you at?
For sure. So first, I'd say definitely check out Polaris Program on all our socials, Twitter and Instagram, Flickr, Polaris Program or Polaris Program photos. And polarisprogram.com, where I'm sure we'll post updates moving forward. And then as for my channels, I'm pretty much John Kraus photos on everything. I photograph launches outside of my work with Polaris, so you'll see a lot of launch photography on those accounts. And if you follow it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, most certainly. Everyone go give John a follow there. John, absolute pleasure to speak with you today. It is so cool to be able to talk with someone, so heavily involved and someone who's got to experience so much. I hope we can sit down again in the future, discuss more, future mission photos there, and maybe one day, discuss what your ride was like on a Crew Dragon or a Starship there. Future astronaut, hopefully, SpaceX Polaris Program content director, John Kraus. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you again for joining us.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, and I'm excited to share more about the program as we get closer to launch. So really appreciate it.
Most certainly. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully we can stay in contact there.